Have you ever loved someone so deeply that you forgot yourself in the process? You poured your heart into them, stayed late texting, bent over backwards to please, maybe even ignored that quiet voice saying you deserved more. I've been there, losing pieces of me to keep someone else close, thinking love meant sacrifice. But what if the very things you thought would keep them were actually the things pushing them away? What if begging, chasing, or shrinking yourself was the opposite of what makes you unforgettable? Here's the truth that can set you free. High-value women love fiercely, but they never lose themselves. They don't beg for attention, chase after someone who's half in, over-explain their feelings, or shrink to fit someone else's mold. Not because they don't feel deeply. Oh, they do, but because they know their worth isn't up for negotiation. I met a woman, Priya, 36, who walked away from a man who took her for granted. She cried, she hurt, but she stood tall, refusing to chase. Her strength wasn't cold, it was rooted in self-love. This video isn't about judging you for those moments you've compromised or proved yourself. It's about waking up that version of you who's done begging, done proving. The woman who remembers her value isn't tied to someone else's approval. You don't need to become someone else. You don't need a new wardrobe or a perfect smile. You just need to remember who you were before you forgot, before love became a performance. We're about to dive into the 7 things high-value women never do in love, and why. And I'll give you real stories and tools to reclaim that irreplaceable you. So, take a deep breath, feel that fire inside, and let's start this transformation together. The psychology of high-value women. Let's dive into what makes a high-value woman. Not the myths, but the truth. High value doesn't mean rich, cold, or emotionally distant, like some untouchable queen on a pedestal. That's a misconception. It's not about money or a perfect facade. It's about being self-aware, emotionally grounded, and deeply discerning. This is a woman who knows her heart, stands firm in her emotions, and chooses wisely in love. She's not aloof, she's rooted. This ties to attachment theory, a psychological lens that shapes how we connect. Many of us, especially those who've chased love, might lean toward anxious attachment, fearing abandonment, overgiving to feel secure. But a high-value woman shifts toward a secure attachment, where she values herself enough to let love flow without clinging. She's not driven by fear, but by a steady sense of self. I've seen this in my own life. Years of over-explaining to keep someone close, until I learned my worth wasn't tied to their response. Carl Jung offers deeper insight here. He spoke of this self, your true, authentic essence, versus the persona, the mask you wear to please others. High-value women shed those false masks, the people pleaser, the chaser, revealing the self beneath. Think of it as peeling away layers of expectation, like shedding a heavy coat to breathe freely. Jung believed this integration is the path to wholeness, and it's what makes her irreplaceable. A friend, Maya, 35, stopped performing for her partner, letting her real self shine, vulnerable yet strong, and he stayed, drawn to her truth. You're on this path if you feel that tug to stop proving and start being. Stay with me as we uncover the 7 things high-value women avoid in love, and why those choices protect their worth. The 7 things high-value women never do in love. 1. She never chases, she attracts. Anna, 32, found herself trapped in a relentless cycle with Mark. She'd text him first, planned every date, push for clarity about their future, her heart pounding with every unanswered message. Nights blurred into worry, her fingers hovering over the phone, desperate to keep him close. But one evening, exhausted and teary-eyed, she stopped. No more texts, no more plans. She turned inward, pouring her energy into her painting, her friends, her own peace. The silence felt heavy at first, a void where her efforts once lived. Weeks passed, and then, unexpectedly, Mark called. His voice carried curiosity, a pull toward the woman she'd become by stepping back. That moment broke her heart open. Tears fell as she let go of the chase, but it also lifted her soul. The relief was palpable, a quiet triumph as she realized her worth wasn't tied to his response. She'd spent so long running after love, only to find it walk toward her when she stood still. A high-value woman knows chasing erodes her power. She attracts by being whole, not by pursuing. This shift, stopping to start, marks the beginning of her irreplaceable presence in love. 2. She never begs for attention. Mia, 29, spent countless nights waiting for James's reply, her phone a dim lifeline in the dark. She'd stay up late, eyes heavy, heart sinking with every unread message, crafting texts to pull him back. Her days blurred into exhaustion, her worth tied to his response. One night, after another silent hour, she reached her limit. With trembling hands, she turned off her phone, slipped into bed, and let the silence envelop her. No more waiting, no more pleading. That night, she slept, deeply, peacefully, for the first time in months. The next day, James texted, curious about her absence, but Mia felt a new calm. She didn't rush to reply, she chose her peace instead. The weight of those sleepless nights lifted, replaced by a quiet pride. Tears welled up as she realized she'd been begging for crumbs of attention, but that sleep was her reclaiming her throne. The ache of letting go turned into a fierce love for herself. Silence is the loudest self-respect. A high-value woman refuses to beg for what should be given freely. Her stillness speaks volumes, drawing love that honors her worth, not demands it. This moment of choosing herself over his attention marks her unshakable presence in love. 3. She doesn't play the cool girl game. Lena, 35, had mastered the cool girl act with David. She'd laugh off his late replies, hide her need for connection, and pretend she didn't care when he canceled plans. Her heart ached, but she wore the unbothered mask, thinking it would keep him. One evening, after another broken date, she cracked. With tears in her eyes, she told him, I need you to show up for me. Her voice trembled, but she meant it. When he shrugged, she walked away, her legs shaky, her resolve firm. That step felt like losing him, but it was finding herself. The fear of rejection hit hard. Her chest tightened as she spoke, but the freedom that followed was a rush of relief. Tears turned to a quiet pride as she chose her truth over his approval. She'd spent months playing cool, only to realize it dimmed her light. Walking away lit it up again. She's not trying to appear unbothered. A high-value woman is brave enough to say what she wants, consistency, respect, love, and walk away if it's not there. This courage, born from knowing her worth, makes her presence undeniable. She doesn't shrink to fit someone else's comfort. She stands tall, and love meets her there or moves on. 4. She never trades her standards for potential. Rachel, 37, clung to hope with Paul. He was distant, often canceling plans with vague excuses, but she told herself he might change. She adjusted her expectations, accepting late replies, overlooking his disinterest, hoping her patience would transform him. One rainy afternoon, sitting alone after another broken promise, her heart sank. She was abandoning herself for a maybe. With a heavy sigh, she let him go, her standards rising like a shield. The emptiness stung, but a quiet strength took root as she chose her worth over his potential. Emotional weight. The realization hit like a wave. Tears fell as she grieved the dream, but relief followed. The weight of compromising herself lifted, replaced by a fierce resolve. She'd traded her peace for hope, and walking away felt like reclaiming her soul. He might change is not love. It's hope disguised as self-abandonment. A high-value woman knows her standards are non-negotiable. Love meets her where she stands, not where she hopes someone might grow. This choice to honor herself, even through tears, makes her irreplaceable, drawing relationships that match her worth from the start. 5. She doesn't make excuses for red flags. Clara, 40, was in love with Leo, but his disappearing acts gnawed at her. He'd vanish for days, returning with "I've been stressed," and she'd nod, weaving excuses, work pressure, family issues, hoping it proved her love. Her heart ached as she filled the silence with justifications, convincing herself his absence was temporary. One lonely evening, staring at an empty chair, she whispered to herself, "Why do I need to justify his absence to feel loved?" The question pierced her. Tears fell as the truth sank in. She stopped making excuses, confronted him, and when he offered no change, she walked away. The decision hurt, but it felt right. The weight of her excuses crumbled, leaving a raw ache, but also a liberating clarity. Tears streamed as she grieved the fantasy, yet a warm strength grew. Self-love replacing the need to rationalize his flaws. She'd been blind, but now she saw her worth. A high-value woman doesn't make excuses for red flags. She asks the hard questions, faces the truth, and chooses herself over a flawed hope. This clarity protects her heart, making her presence in love one of integrity and strength, drawing only those who match her standards. 6. She never loses herself in love. Sophia, 33, fell hard for Liam, and soon her world shrank. She dropped her weekly hikes with friends, let her sketchbook gather dust, and gave him all her space. Love felt all-consuming, but she felt hollow. One day, noticing her loneliness, she picked up her pencil again, sketching a vibrant forest. She called her best friend for coffee, reclaiming her rhythm. Liam noticed the change, her laughter, her fullness, and grew closer, drawn to her completeness. The shift brought tears of joy. She'd almost erased herself for love. The emptiness had weighed her down, a silent grief for the self she'd lost. Reconnecting with her passions and friends lifted a burden. Tears fell, but they were of relief and rediscovery. She realized love should add to her life, not erase it. She keeps her friendships, passions, space, because love adds, not erases. A high-value woman knows her identity is her strength. She doesn't dissolve into someone else's world. This balance creates a magnetic presence, where love enhances her wholeness rather than diminishes it, attracting partners who value her as she is. 7. She doesn't fear the end. Nadia, 39, sensed her relationship with Eric fading. He'd grown distant, his effort waning, but she clung on, terrified of losing him. Late one night, staring at old photos, she felt the weight of her performance, smiling through his indifference, hoping he'd return. Then, a quiet resolve took hold. She told him, "If it's not mutual, it's not love, it's a performance," and ended it. The goodbye brought tears, a sharp ache of letting go, but also a surprising peace. Days later, she stood taller, her heart lighter, knowing she'd chosen her truth over a one-sided script. The fear of ending it gripped her. Tears fell as she faced the void, but the peace that followed was profound. The ache of loss transformed into strength, a release from pretending. She'd feared the end, but it freed her to love herself fully. She knows, if it's not mutual, it's not love, it's a performance. A high-value woman embraces the end when it's necessary, trusting that real love requires two hearts moving together. This fearlessness, born from self-worth, makes her presence enduring, attracting relationships that reflect her value without compromise. I want to take you into my story. Well, Layla's story, a woman I've come to know so deeply it feels like mine. For years, I was her. I spent my 20s and early 30s fixing, chasing, sacrificing, pouring myself into a man who never fully chose me. His name was Daniel. I'd stay up late crafting the perfect text, making excuses for his silence, hoping my efforts would prove my love. I chased him through canceled plans and half-hearted promises, fixing every crack in our relationship with my own hands, my own heart. I sacrificed my weekends, my dreams, even my friendships, thinking that's what love demanded. But deep down, I was crumbling, exhausted, empty, lost. Then came the day I couldn't anymore. It was a gray afternoon. Daniel had vanished again, and I sat on my couch, staring at my phone, tears streaming. I planned a dinner, waited hours, and he didn't show. Something snapped inside me. I saw myself, begging, shrinking, trading my standards, and I hated it. With a shaky breath, I walked away. Not just from him, but from that version of me. The goodbye hurt, a sharp, aching void, but it was the first step to freedom. I didn't know it then, but that was my turning point. I started with journaling. Every night, I'd write raw, messy pages about my pain, my worth, my dreams. It was like meeting myself again. Therapy followed, where I learned to untangle my need to fix him from my need to love myself. My therapist introduced breath work, deep, slow breaths that steadied my racing heart, grounding me in my own strength. I'd sit by my window, inhaling peace, exhaling the past. Slowly, I rebuilt, reconnecting with friends, picking up my old guitar, finding joy in my own company. It wasn't easy. Some days, the loneliness hit hard, tears falling as I faced my fears. But each step felt like reclaiming a piece of me I'd given away. My biggest win. It wasn't a new man. It was peace. I stand here now, not because someone else chose me, but because I chose myself. I walk through my days with a quiet confidence, my heart full from within. People notice. Friends say I glow. A coworker asked my secret. But it's not a secret. It's the peace of knowing I'm enough. Love might come again, mutual and real, but until then, I'm whole. This journey, my tears, my rebuilding, it's what makes me irreplaceable. And it can be your story too. The inner shift, you are becoming her. Let this sink in. The moment you stop trying to be enough for someone is the moment you realize you were never lacking. Feel that truth settle into your bones. You've spent years, maybe like Layla, proving your worth, bending to fit someone else's idea of love. But here's the shift. You don't need their validation. You are enough, right now, as you are. This is your awakening, the start of becoming her, the high-value woman who knows her value isn't up for debate. The evolution within. This is an inner journey, a transformation from girl to woman. As a girl, I chased approval, smiling through hurt, seeking his nod to feel whole. But as a woman, I've learned to validate myself. I look in the mirror now and see my strength, not my flaws. That shift from approval-seeking to self-validating is where your power lies. It's not loud. It's a quiet knowing that you are your own foundation. Then there's the leap from fear of rejection to peace with solitude. I used to dread being alone, filling silence with his voice, his presence, terrified he'd leave. But solitude became my sanctuary, sitting with my thoughts, breathing into my worth. Like Layla with her guitar, I found joy in my own company, and that peace made me magnetic. This evolution isn't about changing who you are. It's about uncovering the woman you've always been, buried under layers of fear and need. You're becoming her when you let go of the need to fix, chase, or beg. When you stand firm in your standards, embrace your space, and face the end without trembling. This inner shift, girl to woman, approval to self, fear to peace, is your rebirth. It's the moment you stop performing and start living as the irreplaceable you. Your next step. Take this with you. Every time you choose yourself, you grow closer to her. Reflect on one way you've sought approval. Let it go. Breathe into that peace. We'll explore how in the next steps, but for now, feel that glow within. You're not becoming someone new. You're remembering the woman who never needed to prove her worth. We've journeyed together through the habits to release, Layla's transformation, and the inner shift awakening within you. Now, let this truth ignite your heart. Being high value isn't something you become to impress others. It's something you return to, because you were always her. You've never needed to chase, beg, or shrink. You've always held that power, that worth, buried beneath the fear and the performance. This isn't about changing into someone new. It's about peeling back the layers to reveal the woman you've been all along. Feel that strength rising. You're not here to prove yourself to anyone. You're here to live as the high-value woman who knows her love is a gift, not a plea. So, take this moment to reflect. In the comments, share one way you'll reclaim your power today. Maybe saying no, picking up a passion, or sitting in your own peace. Share this with a friend who needs to hear she's enough, who's stuck in the cycle of chasing or fixing. Together, let's lift each other up. Reclaim your power now. Close your eyes. See that radiant embrace. Feel the crimson fire of your worth. You are her, unshakable, irreplaceable. Walk forward with that knowing, and let love meet you where you stand.